All right, so I'm gonna get real with you guys tonight and be very humble, and I'm gonna show you some pictures here in a minute. So I need you to all raise your right hand and say, "I solemnly swear not to make fun of you." Thank you. Okay, yes. So Trevor's shaking his head no. He's like, brother, I get to do whatever I want here. So tonight I'm going to be preaching a message called Recomposition, What's Your Faith Made Of? Okay, so for the last year, today is exactly a year. It is the first full year of my life as an adult that I have worked out consistently, which for me is a really big deal. So 5 times a week for an entire year, I kept with it, I stuck to it, and it has been amazing, the different things that I've seen from this experience. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that and some of the lessons that God has taught me over the last year and the things that I've learned. But in order to start this message, I want to show you a picture because sometimes not all faiths are made equal, okay? Not all faiths are the same. Even though they look the same on the outside, they may not be the same underneath the surface. And so in the same way, weight on a scale is very much the same. How many of you guys weigh yourself and look at the scale and you get upset when it goes up or you get upset when it goes down? Well, for guys, most of the time you get upset when it goes down because you're like, I want to be bigger. But for women, you're like, oh no, I gained 5 pounds. And it's like you just drank a gallon of water and now you're upset about it, right? But the thing is, there is a reason that number on the scale fluctuates from day to day. And it's not always fat, and it's not always water, and it's not always muscle. And there's different things that your body is actually composed of. And so one of the things that I learned is that a number on the scale really doesn't tell you all that much. So for the last year, my weight has actually gone up 5 pounds since I started working out at the gym. But my body looks completely different than it used to. And so one of the things can you guys bring up the first picture of pregnant me? So, pregnant me. The reason I'm showing you this is because when I was full term, clocked in at the hospital with Bella, that's pregnant me, big old belly. You see that? So, big girl on the right, that is 170 pounds right there with a full 8.5 pound baby in my belly. This one over here to the right, 170 pounds 2 days ago. So 170 pounds, 170 pounds. Do I look the same in those pictures? Yes. Do you think what's going on inside of my body is the same thing? No? I think there's a big thing missing here, right? There's something missing, right? Okay, bring up I'm going to show you my least favorite picture that has ever been taken of me, okay? This is postpartum, first outing out after having a baby, and I look rough, okay? You can show me that. Ooh, whoa, rough. Okay, I'm really fluffy. Now, in this picture right here, I weigh 100 and no, okay, I weigh 100. If you can see it up close, you can see why. I look really puffy, okay? Super puffy. I weigh 155 pounds. This is after I've given birth. 8.5 pound baby's gone. Some other things are gone, right? But this picture is less weight than I weigh today, and it's my least favorite picture of myself, okay? You could go back to the pregnancy picture if you can. Yeah, so 170 pounds looks very different between these two pictures. But one, there's a whole baby inside of me, and the other one, it's mainly muscle. So over the last year, what's happened? I was at my heaviest weight, even without a baby inside of me, and I went through this year-long transformation and recomposition. I ate the exact same amount of food that I have always been eating. However, I added working out, and I added more protein to my diet, okay? And in that time, I have gained about 24 pounds of muscle. I've recomped 24 pounds of what used to be fat into muscle. And it's changed the entire way that I feel. It's changed the entire way that I look. But the scale does not reflect anything different, okay? When I step on the scale, it still says bigger than what I was before I started this process. And I wish I had a good picture of when I started, but I really don't, because I didn't want to take any pictures of myself because I wasn't really proud of where I was at, right? But the long story short is that there's a lot going on inside of my body over the last year. And if I were only looking at the scale, I wouldn't see any change. I wouldn't have known that anything was really different about me until just in the last month when I started to be able to see the change in muscle growth. Yeah. Not too bad? Okay, so listen, that's something for me because I've never been able to flex and actually visibly see muscle, okay? That was exciting for me. And now, if I would have waited until month 3 or month 4 and been like, and just given up, I would have never seen the results that I've seen now. But the truth is that it would have been very easy to give up at that point. I thought about it a lot of times because I wasn't seeing any change. The number on the scale was not going down. I didn't feel any better in and of myself at that point. It took a solid 5 to 6 months to see even a change in how I felt, right? And so I want to kind of parallel this whole journey with your walk in faith tonight and talk about some of the things that I learned because of it. So in this last year, one of the things I learned is that energy begets energy, okay? So say that with me. Say energy begets energy. Okay, energy in your body is kind of like a supply and demand system. If you don't use the energy, your body won't feel any need to make any more of it, right? So the more you use the energy, the more your body's like, ooh, we need to produce more energy, right? And so I have been in this state where before I started working out, before I started being consistent with going to the gym, I would get to 2 or 3 in the afternoon and I would feel so tired. I would reach for coffee, some kind of sugar, something to get me through that lull. I'd feel absolutely terrible. I remember I was up all night long. Even when I slept, it wasn't good sleep. I would be literally getting up all the time and just be like, I can't sleep. But yet I was tired all the time. I had the opportunity to sleep. I had the option to sleep, but I couldn't sleep because my body was just in this state where it wasn't being efficient in anything, right? And our body is like a machine, right? You got to really give it some love. It needs certain things to be able to produce the right things. But I learned that when I started using all the energy that my body was creating, suddenly I started having more energy. And I got to this point where, now today, it's so funny because I sleep less than I ever did, but it's more efficient sleep. I can go longer into the day without getting tired, even though I've slept less. This last week, there were a couple days where I only got about 6 hours of sleep, and I woke up the next day, I felt great, I went all day long, and I didn't go to sleep until the next night at midnight or almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was still okay. I had enough energy to actually get through that. And so one of the things that I learned in this process is that if I want my body to make more energy, I have to actually use the energy. And faith is a lot the same. With faith, if you want to build your faith, you got to use it or you'll lose it, right? You've got to actually do something with it. You've got to actually step out of your comfort zone. When it comes to actually believing God for big things, you've got to actually put your faith out there. You've got to make a declaration. You've got to tell people, hey, I'm believing in faith for this. You've got to reach out and pray for people who are really struggling. And when you use that faith, what happens is God actually shows up. And then because you've seen God show up, you have more faith for the next thing, right? It's again, we've said this before, but it's like muscle building, the more that you go to the gym. Now, when I first got in the gym, I wasn't sure about heavy lifting because I thought, I'm a female, I don't want to heavy lift because if I heavy lift, then I might get bulky. Boy, it took me 12 months to build 24 pounds of muscle. I did not get bulky over that 12 months. I look better than I did before I started, but I had this idea that it was just going to happen overnight. I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to lift a couple weights a few times, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be like Godzilla or She-Hulk or something, and it's going to be too much, right? But I kept having people in my life saying, no, just try it. I promise. This is gonna really change the way that your body works. And I think sometimes faith is the same way. We think, maybe if I just step out in faith, it's not gonna go the way that I thought it was gonna go, and I'm not gonna be sure about it. And I don't know that I wanna use that faith because what if God doesn't show up? What if God doesn't do something? What if nothing happens the way that I want it to, right? But faith doesn't grow overnight. Faith grows a little bit at a time, okay? It's experience by experience. And the reason why this is so like crazy to me, this process is so crazy to me, is because I look so different in these two pictures, right? But there's so many different things going on inside of my body. If I go back to the other picture, on the outside, I don't look as different because there's not a whole baby there, right? I don't look as different from this picture to the other, but the percentage of fat in my body in this picture versus the percentage of fat in my body now is completely different, right? I would say here I was probably somewhere around 35% fat, and now I'm probably closer to like 25, 26% body fat. And that's a completely different thing, right? But yet on the outside, doesn't look that different, does it? It's not that big of a change. And so what's happening on the inside, what's happening with your faith internally is really, really important. And though it happens slowly, at some point, you're going to see a huge difference and a huge impact over time. Does that make sense? Like, for example, in the beginning, even though I looked the same, I couldn't lift the same. In the beginning of this journey, when I started leg pressing at like 160, which is not very much weight. But that felt really difficult for me. And now I'm leg pressing over 400 pounds. And I can leg press 160 with one leg. So that's a huge difference in strength and ability. Look almost identical, almost the same. Really not a lot of a difference externally with when you like are seeing clothes on and all that stuff. But the strength level is completely different. And I think this is kind of like the parallel between people who have a faith that's like a Sunday faith versus people who have a faith that's an everyday faith. When you're a Sunday faith kind of person, you don't really know why you believe what you believe. You might say the same things as the person who really believes all the things that they do, that has big faith, but do you actually know why you believe it? You know, the difference between muscle and fat is kind of like, okay, is your faith being fed by what other people are experiencing in God? Or is your faith being fed by your own personal experiences in God? Because real faith has to have a real experience in God. You have to have an encounter with God to see that really big change, right? My encountering the gym every single day is what changed my ability to actually be strong. And your encountering God every single day is going to give you a faith that's greater than anything that you could have ever imagined, right? A faith that actually moves mountains, a faith that actually sees change. Versus before, when I was going to the gym like, every once in a blue moon and could barely lift anything at all. And the same way is true for you guys. If you're coming to church every Wednesday, if you're coming to church every Sunday, and you're hearing stories from other people and testimonies, that's great. But it doesn't actually do a whole lot for you until it becomes personal. When you really get into the heat of a moment, when you're really in a circumstance or you're really in a troubling place, and you need faith and you need God, if you've never really encountered God for yourself, it's going to be a lot harder to believe for that. And that's why it's important to start little by little. The Bible says, let's see, we're going to go to, see if I can find this here. There's a scripture about faith is a mustard seed. I'm trying to find it here. Give me 2 seconds. I think it's in Matthew 15:21, if you can pull that up. Maybe. Nope, Matthew 17. Verse 19. Okay, it says, so then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, why could we not cast it out? It's talking about casting out a demon. So Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will not move, and nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not go out except through prayer and fasting. And so, have you guys ever seen a mustard seed before? I think one time when I was preaching, I brought them in here and gave everybody one, but they're really, really tiny. They're smaller than the end of your finger. And when you plant them, they become like this massive shrub thing, right? But the thing about Jesus saying that faith is like a mustard seed is that he's talking about the fact that big change happens over time. It has to be planted, right? If you really want to see a seed do something big, you got to plant it to produce something big, right? You really want to see fruit from it. And in the same way with our faith, we've got to be rooted and grounded in God every single day. We've got to be having encounters with God, having experiences with God every single day. And that one experience leads to another faith building experience and another faith building experience and another faith building experience. And before you know it, you come against these huge giants. You come against these hard things, and yet you're not shaken by them. Because what your faith is made of is muscle, it's real, it's your personal encounter, not just fat that you were fed by somebody else that you don't really understand, right? It's kind of like we come to church all the time, and I think a lot of people's faith is built on overindulging in other people's personal experiences. Like, why are you a Christian? Oh, well, my grandma's a Christian. Why are you a Christian? Oh, well, my mom took me to church every week when I was a kid. But if they were to bring up points in a debate about why you believe what you believe, could you point them to a scripture in the Bible? Could you actually tell them an experience that you had with God that made it real for you? Because that's the difference between the two. The two may look the same. Okay, I'm a Christian. I'm going to church every Sunday. Even a lot of people who do that, who have been Christians their whole life, who haven't really had an encounter with God, they might abstain from sinful activities. They might try to, keep their life looking very pure from an outward appearance. But Jesus really provokes people in the New Testament where he talks about dealing with the heart. And he's like, hey, it's more about what's going on inside of you and in your heart than it is even your physical actions or what other people see from you. Because the Pharisees, they looked like they were really close to God, to the whole public. To everybody on the outside, they were the people in the temple. They were the ones reading the scriptures. They seemed like really close to God. And yet, Jesus confronted them as if they were the furthest away from God. Outwardly, they looked great, but inwardly, he said that their hearts were like a dirty cup that was washed on the outside but dirty on the inside. Imagine if you were to go to get a drink of water. I mean, would you rather have a cup that looked dirty on the outside but was clean on the inside to drink from? Or would you rather have a cup that was dirty on the inside and clean on the outside? Dirty on the outside, right? So it's funny because, when you think about things like that, a lot of times people they don't look like all that close to God because, like, for example, David. We've talked about David a couple weeks ago and his relationship with Bathsheba. Dude was crazy. He did all kinds of stuff that from the outside looked horrible. And yet God called him a man after my own heart because what his faith was made of was not the fact that he alone could be righteous in and of himself, but the fact that he knew that God was gracious and he held on to that and he humbled himself before the Lord. And when he made mistakes, he said, I need to actually go to God myself, and I need to apologize for these things, and I need to get my life right. So his faith, even though externally he looked probably even worse than any other king that had been, internally his heart was right. And so we've got to get to that place with our faith as well, where our hearts are right, more than just external appearance, more than the outside, what's going on externally, but internally. Stop worrying about all the things that other people are thinking about you and what you look like. And, do I look like a good Christian externally? Do I present myself as a good person? Or do I do enough good things? But internally, am I thinking righteous thoughts? Like, am I actually getting stronger in my faith because my heart is being made clean before God? Am I actually taking thoughts captive that don't line up with Jesus? Because there's a lot of people who look like good people externally, but they're holding unforgiveness in their heart towards someone. And God specifically states in the Bible that if you don't forgive your brother, then I won't forgive you. So they can look like they're doing all the right things and following all the rules, but internally in their heart be a mess. It's kind of like, you ever heard the term skinny fat? So there's something called skinny fat, right? And it's basically when you are a skinny person, but you have very little muscle mass and your actual organs are covered in fat, which is far more dangerous than just like fat on the external parts of your body, but like actually filling your organs with fat. Like there's something called fatty liver disease, right? When your liver is so full of fat that it cannot actually function the way that it's supposed to. And it can cause major, major problems in somebody. And it's funny because people like that, they look like they're in shape. They look like they're doing great because they look skinny from the outside, but inwardly their organs are covered in fat. Inwardly, their organs are they're not being effective. They're not being efficient because they've consumed the wrong kinds of things and it has infected the way that everything is working. And our thoughts are a lot like that. Our thoughts are like when we take in and we consume things that we shouldn't consume, and then we just let our thoughts run wild instead of actually taking them captive. You might look great on the outside, but internally, you're holding unforgiveness, you're holding bitterness, you're holding hatred towards somebody, or maybe you're lusting after things, you know? I know a lot of people who seem like really upright, righteous people, and God has confronted them on lusting in their heart. Okay, I'm not, they might not be going to strip clubs, or they might not be like saying outrageous things to people when they see them on the streets, but internally they're thinking all those thoughts, and God is confronting them saying, hey, that's just as bad. Can you imagine what it would be like if everything we thought was heard out loud? How many here would be super confident with saying they'd be perfectly fine with their thoughts being heard by everyone in the room? He said, maybe, I don't know. I mean, like, let's be honest. So now this is biblically, there is no actual proof of this. So I have to tread carefully here. But I have heard about people encountering God where they had a near-death experience and they went to heaven. And when they went to heaven, they didn't talk like we talk here. It was like the thoughts of their hearts were just automatically heard by everyone around them. And that they even said they could do that with like animals and like with plant life. Like they could feel what the thought of the animal was. They could feel what the thought of the plant was, or they could hear it even like singing and worshiping. Like these things literally worshiped God, and you could hear all those things, and you could almost like tap into understanding the hearts of everybody there without actually ever having to say a word. Now, I think this is a really cool point. Do I know if this is actually biblically what's going to happen? No. But think about it. If our hearts were pure enough, that would never be a problem. If our hearts were really righteous enough, if we really did have the thoughts of God inside of us, that would not be a problem. To be able to say, you wouldn't have to hide anything, which would be incredibly freeing, would it not? And I think that's the point of this whole faith walk, is that we need to get to this place of complete and total exposure and transparency with God. Lord, I want you to see everything inside of me. I want you to do a DEXA scan of my heart. Okay, so that was one of the a funny point for me when we went on the cruise. We did DEXA scans, and in a DEXA scan, it's different than like stepping on a scale, because a scale just tells you the weight, right? But a DEXA scan tells you what the weight means, and so it told you how much water was in your body, like intercellular and extracellular water. It told you how much was fat, how much was like bones and skeletal structure and muscle. It tells you all those things. And then it gives you percentages of like what a healthy person should look like in those areas. And that was super helpful for me, because now I could look at this and go, okay, I'm not aiming for like a number on the scale. I'm aiming for better health, which means more muscle, less fat, right? And not too less fat, right? We don't want to completely get rid of fat, because there is an actual amount of fat that is necessary for survival and for healthy. And especially for women, it's higher than for men, which is another thing that's really interesting to me, is that women have to carry a higher percentage of fat because we reproduce, and we need that to be able to produce babies. And so when women don't have enough fat on their body will naturally stop cycling, because it becomes unhealthy for you to carry children at that point. Is that not crazy, the design that God has created in us? So you ever worked out a ton and then like lost your monthly cycle? That's why. Because it's not healthy for you to carry a baby when you have that amount of fat on your body. And so it's interesting to me because we've got to look at the composition of our faith, right? What's actually what does healthy faith look like? Does healthy faith look like, okay, I am going to church every Sunday and I'm checking this off the list and I'm checking that off the list. It's a certain number on the scale. If I get to this number, it's great. Or does healthy faith look like walking with God and consistency? Does it look like, okay, some days you're going to have really good days and some days you're going to have bad days, but every day you're going to give it your all? Because ultimately, that's what I've seen in this process is that, the biggest difference from my previous lifestyle to my lifestyle now, again, is not the number on the scale, but the realization of I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to stay disciplined here. And one of the things that I found that was amazing to me is that you can discipline yourself into passion. At the beginning, I hated it. I did not want anything to do with it. I literally would get to the gym and I would sit in the parking lot and go, I could go get a coffee and just sit here. And no one would ever know that I did not go in there. Like I could go through Chick-fil-A and get a chicken sandwich and I could just sit there in my car enjoying it and, put a little sprinkle of water on my face and then walk home and nobody would know. Nobody would know. But I would know. And my body would know. Right? The difference between those things. And I think that sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking like, oh, nobody knows that I haven't been reading my word. I say enough bless gods and amens in church that people think I'm in a good place. I left the house. I must have gone to the gym. I left the house. I must have gone to church. But the truth is, it has to be an internal work. There has to be effort given. And when you discipline yourself in that space and you say, I'm going to be consistent, I'm going to read the word every day. And I'm not just going to read the word to get done with it, because how many of you guys have read your chapters in your Bible and have no idea what you read at the end of it? You're like, oh man, I'm like actually reading the passage. You get to the end and you're like, yeah, I don't know what I just read. I have no idea. If somebody asked me, what did you read about today in the Bible? I'd be like, no, I don't know. We've all done it. But we checked it off the list and we felt like a great Christian because we read our Bibles. But it doesn't actually do anything for you if you're not processing it. It doesn't actually do anything if it's not actually internalized, right? And so it's like, it's something I tell my kids all the time when we're working in school, because they'll do that all the time with their schoolwork. They'll read something and they'll get to the end of it. I'll ask them comprehensive questions and they can't answer any of them. I don't know. Did you read it? Yeah. How do you know? How do you know that you read it? What? Well, I read it. Can I be done now? No, you can't be done yet. But what's the point of learning if you didn't learn anything? Like, reading only matters if you're comprehending. Reading only matters if you're getting something from it. So if you're not getting something from it, it's a moot point. Like, this is pointless. It's kind of like people who go to the gym, but they don't lift heavy enough to do anything. I can't tell you how many times, and listen, something is better than nothing, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen people in the last year come in there, and they've got 5-pound weights, and they have done 5-pound weights for the last year. They have never changed. They've never gone up in weight. They've never done anything different. They have been using 5-pound weights for an entire year, and it's not because they're in a place where they want to maintain. It's because they don't know what they're doing. And they're like, oh, well, I went to the gym. I checked it off the list. You didn't even break a sweat. Does that count? It's like that with our word. Okay, I read the chapter, but I didn't understand what I read. What's the point? It's better to read one verse and get something out of it that's practical than to read a whole chapter and know nothing. If that's where you're at, do that. But get to the point where you actually are interacting with God when you're reading it. Okay, because the whole point of connecting with the word is about relationship with God. So it's not just checking something off your to-do list. It's not just saying, oh yeah, I've done something. I've done the Christian thing. It's to actually get to know God's heart. God, what were you trying to say in this passage? When you ask questions when you're reading, that's when comprehension starts. Okay, you've read a whole chapter, like something else that my kids do all the time. They'll read a whole chapter, and I'll ask them a question about a word that they read, and I'm like, what does this mean? I don't know. Okay, if you read a word and you don't know what it means, look it up in the dictionary. Because what's the point of reading if you don't understand what it means, right? How many of you actually look up words in the dictionary that you don't understand when you're reading the Bible? Context clues are great, but look up the word. Don't be lazy. Don't have a lazy faith, okay? Because that was me a year ago. Lazy with my workouts, lazy, not doing the things that I needed to do, thinking everything was going to be okay, but all the while feeling terrible. And this is why people come to church and they're like, yeah, I tried church, but it didn't work. Like those people who go to the gym with the 5-pound weights. Well, I tried the gym, but it didn't work. You weren't actually doing it. It's not the same, right? That's lazy faith. Lazy faith is thinking that just showing up and just sitting in the room while you're scrolling on your phone during the message is going to change you at all. Lazy faith is sitting, with your family and bowing your head when they pray, but never actually praying to God yourself. Oh, there's so many ways that we want to look on the outside like we're doing the right things, and we like to present this idea like, oh yeah, I tried it and it didn't work. But the truth is we never really gave it our all. We never really tried to connect. We never really, there's something in working out that I found is called mind-muscle connection. And it's like when you're engaging in an exercise, you mentally concentrate on the muscle that you are working with. And something about that connection of mentally connecting with your muscle actually causes your muscle to engage in a greater way. In the same way, you've got to have that mind-heart connection with God, where you actually, when you're reading the Bible, you're connecting with him. You're not just going through the motions, hoping that it's going to do something, but you're actually connecting with him and saying, okay, Lord, this is about you. This is about me coming closer to you. This is about me seeing you in a new light, seeing something different that I've never seen before. This is about you changing me from the inside out, right? Being able to actually have those conversations with God. And so a workout faith, a real strong faith has to happen from actually getting into the middle of what God's talking about and asking him questions, engaging, fully engaging. When was the last time you sat with God and actually engaged with him, connected? Lord, what's on your heart? God, how are you feeling? What are you thinking about? Is there a way that I can work with you today to see someone else, their lives changed? Is there a way that I can engage with you today so that my faith is not just internal, but it becomes external? It becomes something of strength. It's something else that I learned when I was going through this whole journey is that crushing it at the gym made me a lot more productive in other areas of my life. When I felt like I really did a great workout and I really gave it my all, you would think at the end of it, I'd be so tired that I would be less productive. But yet it's like momentum happened. Something happened in this workout where I gave it my all. I felt really good about what I left on the gym floor. And when I got home, I actually was more productive because I felt like that accomplishing something gave me momentum to step into the next thing. And before, what I would do is I would just go lay down. Like I'd get to a certain point in the day, I was exhausted. I didn't want to do anything because I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with the world. I can't handle any more today. I'm mentally and emotionally tapped out. This is where I'm at. I would go lay down for like 20 minutes. And the truth is, I feel way worse after I woke up from my mini nap than I did when I started. And I thought, if I just get a nap, I'll feel better. But then I'd get up and I'd feel groggy and I'd feel terrible. And you know what I would do the rest of the day? I'd sit there and think about all the things I needed to get done and stress about it, but not actually accomplish any of it. You ever been there? Where you're like, I just need to get something done. But the best way to actually initiate getting something done is to just do something. And it's the same way with our faith. The best way to initiate faith building is to just do something. Do something with your faith. Go ahead and live it out. Step out out of your comfort zone. I mean, when you're at school and there starts a debate in your class about abortion or something of that sort, when they're having conversations about something that you have a strong belief in, step out of your comfort zone. Talk about it. Say what you believe. And you don't have to do it in a judgmental way. You don't have to do it in a condemning way. but just with a confidence of this is what I've seen God do. And watch how even if there are people who don't agree with you, even if there are people who try to shut you down, how you walk away from that experience with your head held a little higher, feeling like, yeah, I'm ready to go tackle another one. I'm ready to go pray for someone. I'm ready, because something about just doing it, just extending your faith, just stepping out of what your comfort zone is, it gives you motivation to do more. It gives you motivation to see more for the kingdom, to actually see advancement. It's like when you spend time with the Lord, it's always been amazing to me in my faith walk how, the time I spend with the Lord, even though it means that I gave more time to him, somehow makes me have more time in the day. It's like, it's the weirdest thing, but like I have the same amount of hours in the day today as I do tomorrow, right? And today I could not spend time with God at all and get almost nothing done. And tomorrow I could spend time with God and then all day long be getting things done. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, it was the same 24 hours, but for some reason this day was way better than that day. Like that's one of the things that I've noticed with my walk with the Lord and even with my relationship with the gym. It's like when I am engaged, when I really connect, all of a sudden the rest of my day changes. The rest of my day has momentum to see more advancement for the kingdom, to see more accomplished. I find because my heart has been made right before God, because I've given him everything and I've set it down and I've sacrificed it before him and said, Lord, have what you want with this day. It's like there's this place of focus that I don't have on other days. This way of engaging with him that causes me to be a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, because I've allowed God to pour into me. And even though it took my time to do that, somehow I have the ability to do more with my time that I have left over than I did on the days that I didn't spend time with God. Am I making sense? It's amazing how it works. And that's why, like, a lot of times, the kingdom of God is referred to as like a backward kingdom, because it seems like what should happen is the opposite of what happens. The last shall be first. The more time you spend with him, the more accomplished you are with the rest of your day. That doesn't make sense in the natural, because the more time you give to him means less time you have to do the other things. And yet somehow it always works out where the God of more than enough makes it possible, because you've prioritized him, because you've put him first. I want to leave you with this last thought. The other thing that I learned this year is that it's all a mental battle. The truth is, you have the capability, but we like to make excuses about why we can't spend time with God, or we don't have enough time. We have enough time to scroll on our phones. We have enough time to sit in a place of anxiety and think about all the things that we're not doing that we should do. We have enough time to procrastinate everything else. Clearly, we have enough time for God. We're just not making him a priority. And that was the truth with my walk with working out. I had enough time. I just wasn't prioritizing it. And don't get me wrong, it was hard to make it work, because I have, homeschool the kids. I have a full-time job. I have all these things. But the truth was, at the end of the day, I didn't have enough energy to get everything done. Even though I had the full 24 hours, it wasn't getting me to the point that I needed it to, because the energy wasn't there to be able to complete the amount of things I needed to get done in that 24 hours. But once I started engaging in the gym, now even though I've given an hour and a half of my time to getting there, doing the workout, getting home, rinsing off the whole thing, I was still more productive with the rest of my day than I ever was before, because I had energy and I could go longer into the night and I could actually sleep and have efficient sleep. And it's the same thing with our walk with God. If we will just prioritize it, if we'll just put it first, if we'll get over with the mind games and we'll just finally have that attitude of, you know what, I'm tired of being the same. I'm tired of acting like everything's okay when it's not. I'm tired of pretending like I feel good when I don't. That's when real transformation happens. When we can finally be completely honest and open with God. Okay, this is where I'm at. And we engage with him and we choose to make it consistent. Every day. Even if it's just a few minutes, even if it's just a little bit, do something. And that's one of the things that helped me in the beginning of my going to the gym was that if I got there and I didn't feel like doing it, I would tell myself, do 20 minutes. And if you still feel like crap and you don't want to do it, you can go home. But what happened every single time, I kid you not, I'd do 20 minutes and then I'd think, nah, I got this. I'm going to just finish it. Something about just doing it, just putting myself, I would give myself permission. You could stop. If this isn't getting you anywhere, if you want to go, turn around and go home at this point, then, but at least try. And every single time that I at least tried, I ended up completing my workout, staying the whole time, doing the whole thing. Because something about that momentum of just getting started was all I needed. And I think that's where a lot of people are in their faith walk. You just got to get started. Stop with the excuses. Stop with the mind games. Stop with the telling yourself, oh, well, I'll get it back together when we get to camp. It's the Monday thing. Oh, well, on Monday, I'll figure it out again. We'll start fresh. It's the weekend. I've blown it. I might as well not even start. I'll get right on Sunday. But what we really need to do is to just start. Wherever you're at, just start. And if you haven't gotten the rest of it figured out yet and you're still messing up in other areas, so what? Just start. Who says you can't do both? Until God really gets a hold of you, right? It's better to at least try than to do nothing at all. It's better to at least give an effort than to do nothing at all. So I encourage you guys this week, spend time with the Lord. Engage with him. Don't just read it and get to the bottom of it and check it off your to-do list. Actually read a scripture. Actually engage your faith. Step out of your comfort zone. I want you guys to pray for someone this week. It's so simple. People are begging for prayer. They need it. They want it so bad. I don't think I have ever been rejected when I've asked someone, hey, can I pray for you? And the truth of the matter is that most of the time it's not even like you're going out of your way and saying like, oh, like, can I pray for you? And it's a total stranger. It's like people tell you when they want prayer. They just don't say, I want prayer. Like, oh, I'm just really tired. I'm really struggling today. Cue, hey, can I pray for you? People are crying for help all around us. Oh, I'm really having a bad day. You can show compassion in simple ways. Hey, what can I help you with? How can I help you? How can I pray for you? Can I give you a hug? That happened Sunday night. There was somebody here at church, and we noticed that like during worship, she was crying and crying and crying. And a lot of times we do altar calls at the end of service, and we pray for people. But they cut the end of the service pretty quick because they had to tear down the whole stage for the Easter play. And that's coming up this next weekend. If anybody wants to see that, I think it's a Friday and Saturday. But they went to go ahead and start tearing down, and I noticed she's still just like broken on the front row. And so I just walked up to her and I said, hey, can I give you a hug? She's like, yes. So I give her a hug, and she's like, I came here because I just really need prayer. I was like, you're in luck. Let me pray for you. And we prayed together, and I talked to her for a little bit, and I let her talk, and she told us her whole life story and all the things that were going on. And the thing is, I don't think she really needed me to say anything. I just think she needed to be seen. She needed to feel like she was seen. She needed to feel like she could talk about what she was going through. And I think sometimes we don't offer to listen to people or to pray for people because we're scared that they're going to need some advanced wisdom that we don't have. But the truth is that most people just need connection. All you have to do is give them a space to talk. And you could even tell them, hey, I really don't know what the answer is to this, but I believe God does. Thanks for sharing your heart with me. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But you ever had that like place where you just felt terrible and then somebody finally asked you how you're feeling and you got the chance to vent and you got it all off your chest, and at the end of it you were like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. Like, people need that. They need a place of safety. They need a place to be able to connect. They need a place to be able to just talk. And that's one of the greatest ways that we can show the love of God, is to just be observant enough to know when someone's suffering and let them share it. Let them talk about it. So I want to pray for you guys as we leave tonight, but I want to encourage you to step out. Do something that you haven't done before in your faith. Get started today. Don't say, I'm going to wait till tomorrow, or I'm going to get it together this day, or that. Just do something. Even if it's just a little bit, do something to step forward in that place. So Father God, I thank you so much for all these kids, Lord, and I thank you for their hearts for you. And I just ask, Lord, that you would purify them, that you would separate them and sanctify them, make them holy, Lord, and that outwardly, that even if something doesn't change on the outside, Lord, that their heart would change internally, Lord, that we would be Christians our faith is made of what's really important. Our faith is made of real encounters, real experiences, real connection, Lord. Help us to not just be people who come to church and just do externally the things that look like the right thing, but to internally actually be transformed. Actually be willing to step out when you call us, to actually be strong in the things of your Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.